We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're gonna get kicked out of being number 2, you're gonna go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon in the mountains. Good afternoon in the central. Good afternoon on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparationist Perspective, bringing you those Black American Negro Freedmen, descendants of the Emancipated Hot Topics, and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. How y'all doing, family? I see you, Brian Johnson, in the chat. To those of you who are tuning in from X and from Facebook, welcome to the live, family. Yes, yes, yes. As I mentioned during my last broadcast with Asun Powell from Capital Accountability Project, I am really seeking to not just bring you the political news through the reparationist perspective lens, but also to come up with solutions. And so today I am ecstatic to have the incomparable Watson speaking. That's her brand. Her name is Lisa. And we became, what's up, Beth? I see you, fam. We became joined at the hip to lead our people off of the demon rat plantation. She is conservative, but she reminds me of the late, great Shirley Huzar. She's beautiful, she's brilliant, and she is on a mission to get us to understand and overstand the great importance of allowing the grifting Department of Education that has failed the Black American Negro children nationwide in lieu of ESL and immigrants. She is here to help us understand and understand why we must let it go the way of the dodo bird and make space for school of choice, which, as I've talked to you guys about in the past, I was privileged to have that as an option out here, but it was wrought with some challenges. And I'm going to raise some of these questions to Miss Watson. Please be sure to put your questions and your comments in the chat. If you'd like to chat it up and be a part of the exchange, you have to join us over here at ScrewTube in order for us to see your comments. But we only have an hour today. We're going to make this into a series because what Miss Watson has come to present is taking ownership, taking back our beautiful, brilliant Black minds and being in total control of that. So we'll be here an hour. I'm in the midst, as everyone is at this hour, of getting ready for our big day of giving thanks, although I know that you guys give thanks on a regular from the Most High, from whom all your blessings flow. But I want to give you a little bit of background on Miss Lisa before I bring her up to chop it up in a magnanimous way. Just a second. I'm trying to, what do I do with her bio that quick? Lord, today. Bear with me, family. Hi, Miss Adams. Welcome to the live, family. Oh, be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications, family, okay? Make sure you do all of that grand stuff. While I'm looking for, I just had her bio. What? Oh, here it is. All right. Lisa Watson is a former leftist turned free market education activist. Lisa Watson is a walking, talking billboard for why Christian parents must run, not walk their kids out of government schools. A victim of the liberal indoctrination that is endemic in American colleges and universities. Lisa succumbed to the suggestions by various professors that Christianity was little more than superstition from man's unenlightened past. Those same professors routinely challenged the historicity of Jesus and mocked the fairy tales of the Bible, quote unquote. Having never even heard of apologetics, Lisa soon absorbed the idea that materialism was sufficient to explain the universe. She would go on to become an agnostic and then a full-blown atheist. Lisa's escapades in liberalism run the gamut: work study at the University Women's Center, framed history through the lens of race and sex. Her next stop was an internship at the local Planned Parenthood. There she quickly embraced the me culture of feminism and its pro-abortion mantra. But then a divine appointment and her curious nature led her to investigate the scientific evidence for God. True to scripture, seek and you will find, Matthew 7:7, Jesus revealed himself to her. Deceived by the lies of Darwinist evolution, she admitted that intellectualism had been her idol. Admitting that it took more faith to be an atheist, she abandoned the folly of materialism and accepted Jesus as her Lord and Savior. Having mastered the tools and messaging of the left, Lisa now uses her powers for good. Her testimonial, The Great Unraveling, is the cautionary tale of her journey through the left. And without further ado, let me bring up our illustrious guest, the very Watson speaking, Lisa Watson. Welcome to the live, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here. Let me unmute you. Sorry about that. There you go.
Hey, Angela girl. How you doing? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, sis. I am just ecstatic to have you here to educate us about school of choice and why it is so imperative that we shift from the failing public school education that we've been receiving and make the case for school of choice.
Oh, I'm here to make the case. I am here to sell it to you. You're buying what I'm selling. Your audience is going to get on board. But first, I want to do a shout out to Angela because I've only been on social media about 4 years. I didn't get on early on when everybody was jumping on all of the social media. I thought it was crazy. I was like, these people, you don't know these people. Why are you always engaging with these people? So about 4 years ago, one of my friends forced me. She created the account and forced me to get on Twitter. So it's like the Wild West out there. I'm like, this is crazy. It's just random strangers having like boxing matches. So at one point, I saw your account. You post a lot of memes and they are hilarious. And I said, oh, I have to follow her. I don't even know if I agree with her on a lot of things, but those memes are funny. So there was one particular meme that you posted, and I said, that was me. I literally was just gobsmacked because it was me. And it's a picture of Gloria Steinem, the feminist, the matriarch of feminism in America. As a white woman, she's standing there. And then it's a split screen, and it's a black woman with an afro. And above her, above Gloria Steinem, it says CIA agent. And above the black woman, it said useful idiot. That was me. I was the useful idiot. I believed all of the propaganda that was coming out of the left, and I was gung-ho. Okay, so we have to start. I have a little saying where I'm like, we have nobody to blame but the man in the mirror. And so I always start with me in the mirror, that I fell for the lies of Planned Parenthood. I was in there, and I was at those marches in DC celebrating the death of 20 million Black babies. That was me. I was in the Women's Center buying all that feminism. I was just eating it like Cheerios.
Right.
And, you know, what's going on? Our families are decimated because of the lies of feminism that came in and put a wedge between the Black man and the Black woman. 77% separate families now. Children paying the price for it. I believe the lies of the left. So I hate that every time that I meet somebody that I have to again and again, apparently this is my penance for the rest of my life, that I have to keep saying this, you know, just keep repeating my own stupidity. But that's the price apparently that the Lord is making me pay. So welcome. Hello to your audience. If anybody has any questions, please post them. I want to answer questions. And we're going to apparently have a regular conversation, which I love.
Yes.
And I want to get started wherever you guys are curious.
Wonderful. I just want you to know that you're in excellent company. I didn't have my come to Jesus moment until after voting 2 terms for Barack Obama, who I affectionately call No-Bama, as he was a no to our repair. Yes. After grifting off of Blackness for 2 terms. And so trust and believe. Hi, Gwen XOXO. And for all of you joining from other parts, welcome. I can't see you, but welcome to the live. Yeah, we've all been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the bumper sticker. Right. So just beat yourself with a wet noodle. But it's just amazing to me how God has awakened the truth in each and every one of us. And you're speaking to many of my comrades from all over the country, many of whom will tune in later. It looks a little sluggish here on ScrewTube. Make sure y'all like and share and subscribing and turning on your notifications. But they'll check it out. It'll go viral because that's the only way I can go viral. But yes, sis, I want you to give yourself a break. We've all drank the cyanide of a party that we've been most loyal to for about 70 years, but we're all awakening. Like, it's really awesome to see us push past the propaganda. And now we've managed to get 20% or 22% of Black men of the voters, right, that went out to vote, to turn the vote out for conservative values. Trump, and most importantly for us,
Right.
Deportation and closed borders, because
That's
we
the
cannot
thing
even.
I loved about you. You just kept saying, close the border and deport. I was like, perfect. I'm stealing that. The hashtag
Right.
close the border, hashtag deport. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, because I had to drip conservatism on the most conservative people in this country,
I know.
the Black American Negro freedmen. They were not ready for me to just say, vote for Trump. I had to find a way to drip on them to get the results I got. Okay, with the help of my comrades throughout the country, Chicago Red,
Yes.
and all that crew, my folks in Florida, Sexy Ra, like all of these people came together to shift the consciousness enough to help Trump to get into office, because we all came to learn that we were being sold a bill of goods. Anytime you've got a woman cosplaying blackness and selling you on murdering more of your Black babies while keeping the borders wide open for illegals to birth citizens, Houston, we've got a problem, and it is of exponential proportion.
Exactly. And when I'm also not seeing, her husband's Jewish, I don't see the abortion being promoted to the Jewish community. That's never going to happen. I don't see abortion being promoted to East Asians. That's never going to happen. It's only acceptable to pour abortion down our throats. And if we are looking in the mirror, or if we're looking in our own community and not able to ask, why are over 80% of abortion clinics in the Black community? And that is somehow offensive for me to even ask Black people. Don't you see that that's targeting your community? Marketing dollars cost money, and they're going to get a return in their investment. What's the return on their investment? Black blood. That's the return on their investment. 20 million plus Black babies. So we are talking about the loss of power and influence that we have in the culture, where we're 20 million fewer people. Or what if we were, those people would have been adults by now and had children. So the 20 million really have an exponential effect. So how much more power would we have if we hadn't gone through, or if we weren't aborting our babies at this rate?
You're absolutely correct. And we have to get to the place in our politics where we understand that numbers matter, and having the right representation matters. Not having a cosplaying Barack Obama who grew up in whiteness, whose white grandmother gave him $500,000 upon graduating college, and folks that will prop that up like Michelle Obama, and churches that fail us. They got the 501c3s, they make $1 bazillion, and they end up participating in our demise in the country of our ancestors.
Right. And they will go and work against you. Not only are they not helping you, they're not even neutral. They will come as part of the attack apparatus of people who are disagreeing. So,
oh yeah. And so then they wonder why the youth, the Gen X, the millennials, the Gen Zs no longer want to participate. They scratch their heads wondering where we went. Your whole 501c3 conflating church and state.
Right.
And had they been doing it for the Republicans for all this time, it would have been a problem, and they would have had their 501c3 snatched.
Correct.
But the 501c3 is in place to keep them loyal to the Demon Rat Party and allowing them to take the platforms and sell us on transgender, and sell us on LGBTQ, and sell us on aborting our babies, and sell us on keeping the borders wide open to our extinction.
And it's a myth. The 501c3 threat is a myth. There are no churches that have had their 501c3 status stripped of them. The status of churches not paying taxes was a part of the founding. You can read the founding documents. There's a set of papers that were written called the Federalist Papers. And those are the papers that were used to debate the drafting of the Constitution. They were publicized in newspapers. So it wasn't just a group of men that went into a private room and drafted the Constitution. They debated these these topics like First Amendment. Where'd that come from? No other country had it. They debated, why do we want this? What's the argument? And they published them in a set of papers called the Federalist Papers. And the argument about the church paying taxes came out of Europe, where the church was co-opted by the government. So the so-called separation of church and state was never about the church. It was about binding the government and restricting the government's ability to control the church. So they've never paid taxes since day one. And this whole 501c3 status was created in the 1970s. So if a country is created in the 1700s, you went 200 years with no taxes. They don't have any power to leverage taxes on the church. The church just doesn't want to do their job. Now, since you brought up the church, I'm going to tell you some of the statistics. In the U.S., there's 330,000 churches. That's the lowest number that I found. Some data says 400 plus thousand. The lowest number is 330,000 churches sitting empty 90% of the time. 85,000 of those churches are Black churches. There is no other minority group. I know they don't like the word minority, but I just have to use that one. There's no other minority group
over here.
that has that amount of infrastructure that sits empty 90% of the time. So how can we say there's so many things we don't know when we have literal buildings on every street corner? I want people to start driving around in their own community, no matter where you are. And I just want you to notice on any random Thursday or a random Monday that you're driving around town, I want you to notice how many churches you drive by with completely empty parking lots. How do we justify that? How do we send children to failing schools with 82% of Black fourth graders, functionally illiterate, while we have 85,000 churches that sit empty 90% of the time? This country was founded on one-room schoolhouses. Everybody has seen Little House on the Prairie, right?
Yeah.
Where was the school on Little House on the Prairie? What building was it in? The school was in the church building. So the church always was in charge of educating the children. That's a recent shift. You could drive by St. Paul's and St. Maria's. Guess what? Those Catholic churches have schools. Why? Why do the Catholics have schools, but the Black church does not have a big tradition of having schools? So this is a shift that we could make. We don't need anyone else's help. We could shift and start teaching in our own buildings. And that's a part of the blueprint that I'm promoting. Now, first question I get is, where are we going to get the money? Number one, it doesn't cost that much to educate children. We literally have technology now with free education coming through the screen. There is free tuition there's free curriculum on YouTube. So you could put flat screen TVs up in your own church building and you could teach them with free curriculum. There's free Black-centered curriculum. There's millions of books that we could get for free. You can even order books through the library. So we have the capacity to take this over and take education back. If we're saying we're not getting taught financial literacy, that's a big complaint that we have. We're not being taught financial literacy. Then we can teach ourselves financial literacy. We're not being taught the trades. Well, we have men in our community that know the trades. Why can't they come in and start teaching kids some of the basics of the trades? Again, there's online curriculum. We could put this system together. But the good news, after I do the personal responsibility part, because I will drive that horse till it dies, the good news is that 35 states have passed school choice legislation. Now, every state is different, but in general, school choice legislation means that the funding for the student can follow the student. And it doesn't have to follow you to the government schoolhouse. Here's an example. Let's just say your state passes school choice and they're going to give the parents $5,000 in the form of a coupon. I tell people to think of it like Section 8. We know what a Section 8 voucher is. You take your Section 8 voucher. They don't tell you where you have to live. You go into the marketplace and you find someone that's willing to take that voucher. Now, the rent may be $1,000 and your voucher is $900. What does that mean? You're going to have to pay that extra $100. Or you may have a $900 voucher and you go find a rent that's $800. You don't get the extra $100. They're just going to pay the $800. So that makes sense, right? Well, in many of these states, that's how school choice works. The parent gets a coupon. They can go to St. Michael's and say, oh, I want to apply to come here. I have this voucher. Do you accept this voucher? Yes. They may have some, testing of some sort for your child. And if your child passes, then they get enrolled. And the money follows the child. That's the gold standard for school choice. Some states have what's called an ESA, an education savings account, where they're going to make a little savings account and they're going to put the money in the savings account. The parent's name and the child's name is going to be on that account. Some states have what's called open enrollment, where you can go to any public school that you want. You can just go to any school. You don't have to go to the zip code school. I call those zip code jail, because that's the only marketplace that we're forced into based on our zip code. Those zip codes were designed, or those zip code allocations were designed during Jim Crow segregation. So that's why you have to go based on your zip code. We shouldn't even have that anymore. They don't tell you have to go to the grocery store based on your zip code. You can go to whatever grocery store you want. They don't tell you that you have to get a job based on your zip code. You don't have to choose your doctor based on your zip code. You don't have to choose what restaurant you go to based on your zip code. You don't have to go to daycare based on your zip code. So if it's all about education, well, then how come you can choose any preschool you want? You can choose any daycare you want. You don't have to go to college based on your zip code. So if it's about education, well, how come if I'm under age 5, I can choose whatever I want? If I'm over age 18, I can choose whatever education I want. Just between the age 5 and 18, I have to go based on this zip code allocation. It doesn't even make any sense in the year 2024. They can't say it's about transportation. Many parents say, oh, that's okay. I can drive my kid to school every day. And they still lock you in the zip code jail. Many parents say, well, we'll carpool, so don't worry about it. And they still lock you in the zip code jail. There's a reason you're locked into those zip code jails. They know that outcome of that school district before that child is born. And they're going to push you into that school district, whether it's functioning, whether it's failing or not. That is a jobs program for adults. It is not designed for children. So, and it is designed based on some old model. For example, why are we off all summer? We're off all summer because of the farm schedule. The parents used to need their children during the summer to work the farms and do the harvest. Well, we haven't done that in 80 years. So why are we still have schools that are on a farm schedule? The original first public school in America was founded in 1637. 1637. Do you know that Benjamin Franklin went to that school? It was 100 years old when he went. The school system looks the same as it did that original school. Why are we doing a model that is 400 years old? I like to do another parallel. I don't know if most people can imagine what the first telephone looks like. You've seen that picture of Alexander Graham Bell. He's on the very first phone. It's got all these wires. But now, do phones look the same? No. They embraced the marketplace. And then the phone evolved and became better and better and better and better. And now you can carry a phone around in your pocket. If we think about the very first airplane, airplanes don't look the same as two-seater. They didn't even have anything covering them. I don't understand how they went up there, but that's not me. I'm not going up there. Nothing covering them. But the plane doesn't look the same because they embraced the marketplace. And then the planes got better and better and better. Now we have space shuttles and rockets. Television. Most people haven't seen the first television. I do have a picture of it. The screen was only 3 inches wide.
Wow.
3 inches. And the first image was just like a black blob. You couldn't even tell that it was someone's face. But it doesn't look the same now. Now we're talking on laptops that are a version of televisions. We have televisions that cover the whole side of buildings. They don't look the same because they embrace the marketplace and it got better and better and better. But education, we don't want to embrace the marketplace. We have the capacity to build something that's more customized. So the new revolution, I don't know if you've heard of it. I don't know if your listeners have heard of it, but I want them to look it up. It's a micro school revolution. People are building tiny schools, fewer than 100 students. You can go K through 12 with 100 students, and they're looking at it like a laboratory. And the people that are running these schools, they're called edupreneurs. They are entrepreneurs in the education space. And that is the space that I am asking Black people to embrace, to run into this space. I'll give you another example. I like to do the math for people. I said, a micro school can be 100 students, which isn't a lot. If you had a K through 12 school, you wouldn't even have 10 kids in each class if you had a K through 12 school and you only had 100 students. But if they were paying in your district $5,000 voucher, you would have your little mini business would be bringing in $500,000 a year. The average Black-owned business is not bringing in $500,000 a year. So why wouldn't this be a space that we would want to go into when we can take responsibility and take control, where Black people can have control of hiring the teachers? Why wouldn't we want to have control where right now, like 85% of teachers are white, female, liberal Karens? Why do you want to sit our kids underneath the Karen class all day long? That makes no sense. Where they are pushing medicine on little children, when we can have our own schools and we decide whether or not what the discipline looks like. Isn't that a complaint we always have? Oh, the school to prison pipeline. Yeah, because they've changed discipline over the last few decades. What a child used to do and just got sent to the principal's office for, or used to get the spanking from his daddy when he got home. Now they're going to call the police and give your kid a record while he's in school? That doesn't even make any sense. But if we owned our own schools, we would be in control of the teachers. We would be able to be in control of the discipline. What's another complaint that we have? The food crap that they're feeding them. I'm calling them crappy meals because I like the way you rename everything.
I like that. Crappy meals.
Yes, so they're feeding our kids crappy meals all day, and we're wondering why they're rolling around. They're so round because they're getting crappy meals for breakfast and lunch at school. But what if we controlled the schools? Now we could feed the kids healthy foods and we could grow our own food. You could have a little garden and you could teach the kids how to grow healthy food. That could be a part of the curriculum. So if we don't want drag queen story hour, well, if you control the school, you won't have drag queen story hour. So everything is about, why are we not taking control? We have the infrastructure. 35 states have responded. I do like to tell people 100% of the states that passed this legislation were Republican. Not one Democrat legislature has passed school choice. I wonder why. Since they said they're our ally, they want to help us the most. Well, you know what? If you really want to give me reparations, start funneling that money through. You don't even have to go pass a bill. Like they have to keep studying reparations for 160 years, right? 160 years. It doesn't take 160 years. If you read the reparations, the original reparations plan, I think it's only one page. Special Field Order number 15. It's one page. So it doesn't take 160 years to understand the intent of this document. Now, I'm not a reparations activist. I tell people that because I have reviewed it and I found some constitutional restrictions. So I was like, oh, not only is there a constitutional hurdle, the Democrats are lying through their teeth when they tell you that they want it. They don't want to do it. They can come and structure programs like I just talked about with the school choice program. If you want to funnel me some money, I will help you help me. They can give these vouchers. Black people can start opening up our own schools and we could start getting millions and millions of dollars funneled into our community. Now, when we first talked, I told you I told you a lot of random stories. And I said, at one point, a random video came up in front of me, and it had Dr. Claude Anderson. And here you are opening up your show with Dr. Claude Anderson. Well, I had never heard of Dr. Claude Anderson in my life. And he was giving a presentation called Inappropriate Behavior. Have you seen that one?
Nope.
Oh, I'm going to send you that one.
Please do.
He was speaking at a church. I thought he was going to talk about sin. And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably me. It's probably talking about me. I listened to him give this presentation on Black people and how we have inappropriate behavior. It's a long presentation, but he said when we are doing things like advocating for BIPOC, that's inappropriate behavior. And I said, oh, I was advocating for that. When we're advocating for open borders, that's inappropriate behavior. When we don't have understanding that we have a unique position in America and we have to maintain uniqueness, I wasn't doing it. I was doing every liberal leftist mistake out there, except for the alphabet people. I wasn't doing that. Everything else I was doing. Now, I wasn't having abortions, but I was promoting abortion. So it's practically the same. Dr. Claude Anderson, I just wanted to say, oh, I'm so guilty. I'm so guilty.
All of us, sis, at some facet of it, we've all been guilty because we've just been politically ignorant and blindsided and just taught to drink the cyanide. I was sharing with you in our wonderful exchange last night that went on for about 4 hours. It felt like, well, it felt like 1 hour. We had so much to cram in preparation for today's time together. But I had shared with you about, oh Lord, did I lose my train of thought? I think I lost it. I lost my train of thought. What was we just talking about?
Dr. Claude Anderson, inappropriate behavior, how we all were making these mistakes. You voted twice for the Obama. I only voted once for him.
Well, you were super smart, but I was just saying that, all of us have participated in our own demise without having known that that's what we were doing. And we really had to seek this information like we discussed yesterday. Many of us just did it because mama did it, grandmama did it, and we just went on autopilot. And when, of course, they figured out, oh, we could just put this biracial man in front of them and they'll be none the wiser. They won't fight for the fact that he's not them. Mm-hmm. And what I learned in that time was that when the demon rats before it, we must be abjectly opposed.
Exactly. Yes.
Because that was the only litmus test I had. Wow. When I saw Iowa run out in droves and deliver him, that was a hit and a half for all of us to not go down this road.
Exactly.
But he looked like us and they tried it. They thought that they still had it. This is how elitist they are, that they literally thought they could put Skamala up there. And because she looked like us, and I'm telling you, their plans are 200 years deep. They're earmarking and cherry picking these people off of the HBCU campuses oftentimes. That's where my original thought was, thanks God, how my daughter couldn't even be a proud conservative Trump supporter as she was casting her very first vote. So what was so ironic about it was she was born, she was around 4 when Barack Obama got elected his first term. And so I was like, wow, in her time, she's going to know a Black president, like something that took me forever to get to know. And then this was her first time voting. She's although she's 3rd year, this is the first time she's cast a vote because she's gotten very involved. But these HBCUs are very complicit and going in and pouring that feminist I call them feminazi. You can borrow that one.
I can
If you let me,
okay, I like it.
feminazi. If you would let me borrow Planned Parenthood and crappy meals, you can borrow that. But anyway, they're literally indoctrinating our students and getting them to vote against their own interest on these campuses that by and large only melanated immigrants can attend.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is a legacy. The first HBCU was founded in 1837. So this is almost 30 years before slavery even ended. So we were already building colleges before slavery ended. We do not know our own history. This is literally bizarre that I literally had to have a crash course after going to college, after being in the workplace, after being what I thought was successful, which was idolatry. Most of my life was just rooted in idolatry. I was idolizing the intellectual class. You know, this which everybody's calling them
condition too, sis.
Yes. Yeah. And I got smacked in the face with it. Like, what? That's idolatry? I didn't even know that was idolatry. But once you start hearing from the Lord, you can't shut him up. So he's going to keep telling you the stuff you don't want to hear. So I'm like, wow. Not only was I doing that, there was like another depth to it that the Lord was revealing to me, that my mom, I'm one of four, and my mom divorced. And so we grew up in a single mom household. My mom was a nurse, so she was able to provide, make enough money to provide, but very working class people. But I was the only one that went to college. So a lot of the things that I was idolizing, at some point the Lord showed me how I was basically even sacrificing my own siblings who would work in very blue collar areas. So when you're saying this border can be open, it was superiority for me. Like didn't feel like I was having to compete with illegal aliens. But at the same time, one of my brothers works in construction. So that field is decimated by illegal aliens. I'm not mindful that my brother has to compete in this industry. He has a wife to take care of. He has children he's trying to take care of. He's got child support bills that he's having to pay. And it was never connecting for me. You see what I'm saying? That how do we live like that?
That's by design as well. You see, we become the educated lames. And this has been my rallying cry as an educated woman who has been victimized out here in the state of California by illegals, well, not illegals, but immigrants, because I have an issue with all of it, like we discussed. Mass immigration, there needs to be a moratorium even on legal immigration until we're flourishing.
Right.
And that's what they've made sure to do. The Democrats have been very complicit in layering everything. They just pile on. It becomes immigrants. It becomes LGBTQ. Now it's transgender fights. And it just, all these things are masking the real failure of the Democratic Party concerning its most loyal constituents. Okay.
And that's where I was able to go looking through Black Twitter. I have one of my friends, she doesn't really like to go into Black Twitter. She's more of a traditional conservative. And I said, well, you know what? I was, the other people just a minute ago. So it still resonates for me. So I go swimming through Black Twitter. That's how I found your account.
Oh, really? I'm in Black Twitter?
Sometimes you just put hashtag Black Twitter and just random accounts come up.
And mine came up.
I'm pretty sure you're in Black Twitter. I put it on my account sometimes. So
I don't even know how to find Black Twitter. And I'm like, wow, I would love to find Black Twitter.
It's funny. It's hilarious. If you just put in whatever you're searching for and put hashtag Black Twitter, all the accounts that put hashtag Black Twitter will come up. So
I need to make mine a hashtag Black Twitter. I will do that because I just be wondering how in the world am I close to like 5,000 followers? Because I don't halfway know what I'm doing. I'm just ranting and just
it's so funny.
Getting my stressors off and having a good time with the folks. And the next thing I look up
memes. You post the funniest memes, and I'm like, they're hilarious.
I have a good time over there. But that to me is the best space. since Elon Musk took it over.
Yes.
He has withdrawn that censorship.
Okay,
I'm
still censored.
Well, I don't get it as badly as I do on Facebook. They literally shut down a page I had built to 5,000 subs because I was talking against the Joe Crow administration. I was talking against OVK and the ABJ. I mean, they literally just took down one of my broadcasts. Not the one from last week, but the one the week prior. I just got back on ScrewTube and they're already coming for me. They keep shutting my channels down. It's like I cannot wait until Trump shuts down censorship because I have a feeling we're going to have a big class action.
I hope so.
It's a nightmare what they do to silence our voices.
Yes.
But I do want to get this point across before I forget it again. The bottom line is my fight, and this is what I don't want to happen to those of us that are educated with a wealth of experience. I don't want you to have to experience the harshness of racism in the workplace before you get involved and start to care about 80% of our collective.
Correct.
Because that's what it took. I literally went through all of us that are foundational to this country being phased out of Wells Fargo Bank to make space for all of these immigrants to take it over. And so now communities that were once Black out here, you see nothing but immigrants running the banks, places where we used to get employment, no more. They're running the grocery stores and they're running the department stores and they're running the restaurants. And we don't have that same luxury. An illegal can set up a cart and sell his, bacon hot dogs, all he wants. But let a Black person set that up. The police will come and shut it down. So there's so much discrimination. I was even reading back to the education piece. I was even reading about how they grift. We talked about this, how they make a grift of poverty. These are poverty pimps at the highest exponential proportions. They have poured billions and millions into education out here, and yet we're still failing.
Right.
Our children only make up 7% of Black children in LA County, and yet we're 37% of the incarcerated in juvenile detention centers. Okay? Like, what they're doing is grifting. So they pour in all this money to line their own pockets. Money is not the answer. It's curriculum, and it's having teachers that are focused on the needs of our children. What they're doing is flooding the zone with immigrant children, and the teachers have to try to share a classroom with 30 students, 2/3 of which are speaking Spanish, that they now have to teach ESL to, and they don't have the bandwidth to focus on Tyrone and John Quisha learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to do math. This is the problem. Exactly. It's a problem of exponential proportion, and we've got Black folks welling and gnashing their teeth to hold on to a failed system. They're in these classes. They're teaching now out here as part of a Black Lives Matter, some type of acceptance week that they're doing. They're teaching about the LGBTQ in that agenda. They're teaching transgender and how to have sympathizer, to be a transgender sympathizer. Newsom just passed a law stating that children don't have to tell their parents how they sexually identify. And if the parent take issue with it, then the parent can have the children taken from them, as a form of child abuse. That's what's going on in California, as Newsom, who I seek to destroy in 28 for grifting off of reparations to save his recall during the pandemic, when he was caught supping with his elitist friends in some type of Malibu or Palisade kind of restaurant, while the rest of the city was on lockdown, the state was on lockdown, and people were losing their shirts behind it. He used us, sent us away for 2 years, and found a way to use us to save him in that recall. But he's the one that's signing these weird, diabolical laws.
Yep.
Even in sex education, they start teaching your kids about sexual education at 5th grade. You as a parent can't even come into the classroom to see what your children are being taught. This is what the public school system is doing. They will take away your rights as a parent to parent your child. You'll be arrested if you admonish your child, but they won't come out with anti-Black hate crime bills to give us enforced protections from the race soldiers going upside your head when you come from a home where your parents weren't allowed to discipline you. I ain't saying abuse you. I'm saying they weren't allowed to discipline you. What do you think that means when our kids go in these streets and have no discipline from the house? What do you think it means when our kids
undisciplined masses of people? They encourage drugs, encourage sexuality, and no discipline. So how are you going to build anything? You don't have any tools to work with.
You don't have any control.
And this
kids can call the system on you. They'll take your kids gladly because why? They're disappearing our children into pedophilia, into the sex traffic slave trades. They are harvesting organs. They're doing all manner of things to these missing children, all because you're giving children more rights than you give the parents. And then you've got the parents economically on the bottom in such a way that they've got to struggle to eke out a living. You're out here in California. This is why we're down from 17 to 3%. They have to leave here because they can no longer afford to buy homes since the 2008 intentional mortgage backed securities of adjustable rate mortgage crises under Obama. When he chose to bail out the banks in Wall Street, which cost us the only wealth we had to bequeath our children, our homes. Now you've got Newsom signing bills into law to actually give illegals programs that aren't designed for you, to give them $25,000. You know that bullshickety that Skamala was running on? Yeah.
And that's
he was running on 25,000 down home payment assistance only for immigrants. That was not inclusive of us. Okay, I'm gonna let you interject, but I do have a couple of questions.
No, I just wanted to agree with you. I was agreeing with you when we did our little preliminary chat. And during that mortgage meltdown, I was having conversations with Black people, telling them that this is going to be the impact of what happens. If you're going to bail somebody out, if you do something on one side of the equation, you have to do something on the other side of the equation. My algebra teacher told me that.
That's right.
So they gave the money to the banks, but they didn't have any requirements. So they could still come and take your house, and they got all of the bailout money. That didn't make any sense. I told them, guess what? You couldn't say anything against their Obama God, because that idolatry was so deep with black people. I don't know if they didn't understand, they didn't want to understand when I kept saying, no, the regulations that he's piling up now are going to be designed to lock people out of the marketplace. That's going to be the outcome of these new regulations. But remember, they were running around there. They wanted these banks heavily regulated. And I'm like, the banks are writing the legislation. You know that, don't you? The banks wrote the legislation. The banks got the bailout. The banks still got to take your house and then go and sell it. You had already made most of the payments. You had probably, if you were in a house 10 years, you've already paid for that house. 20 years of it is pure interest. So they got all of their money. Then they went and resold the house and got their money again. Then they got the bailout. So I said, how are you guys agreeing with this just because the guy that's telling you or selling this to you looks like you? The pathology within our community has got to be addressed. And and rooted out first before we can even make a plan or execute a plan, because we're in mild delusions a lot of days. Okay, so what was the questions?
Yes, well, it goes back to what you said earlier about financial literacy. This is how they were able to get that over and have people like myself, although I am financially literate, I was listening to people tell me he needs more than one term to turn it around. And they were promising me the second term reparations would, eventually he would be on reparations and would endorse it. But there was no way he could do it beforehand. He can't be about Black people, even though he's cosplaying Blackness to keep in power and to keep the votes flowing. No, he can't do anything for us because we won't be able to get him elected a second term. Wait until his second term. Then it became wait until he's out of office. It never came.
It wasn't.
This is a kind of Jedi mind trick they've done on the collective, which is why you see 92% of Black women continuing to vote for our extinction. And you see 78% of Black men who were even shamed by Obama, shamed by Oprah, shamed by Joe Crow, author of the 94 crime bill. Right. You can see the shaming everywhere. The celebrities talking to you crazy. These same people, when we didn't toe the line for Skamala, they're wailing and gnashing their teeth, wishing whole lynchings on people. Hello, Luke, who bought the diabolical thought industry from your home Caribbean towns. You bring this stuff to our communities, and then you ensconce it in Blackness, and then we get labeled and blamed as a diabolical debauchery that you bring into the country. That becomes our onus because they refuse to allow us to delineate. And even that is by design. But I won't go on another rant because we're at 157. Oh my God.
I want to give a shout out to the brothers who delivered that 20%. They delivered that they were going to walk away. They didn't need 5 PhDs to figure this out. They have been saying this consistently, really for decades, that we are participating in our own demise, that the more we get in bed with and this is not the PhD class, which is funny. These are just the brothers who work in the warehouses. They could see.
Because they're the most impacted.
Right.
Like you said, us with education and home ownership are removed until it happens to you. I didn't get involved until it happened to me. And so I'm on this channel to try to prevent it from happening to the rest of us. Like, I don't need for y'all to go through a crisis and practically losing what you have, your possessions, your homes. I don't need for y'all to go off a cliff to get active. Now is the time to help save our children, and they are relying on us. It is those of us with education, with job experience across industries. We are our brother's keepers because they make up about 80% of the lineage. So you can't be okay in your creature comforts and be all right with them dying out because we need marriage. We need procreation because we are outnumbered. Well, I don't even know that we are, but that's the lie they tell. I don't know how you stayed 13% of the population from the 70s up and through now. I don't believe it. I do believe we have more than 20 million abortions. That number's been around for way too long. I believe it's closer to 100 million. But that's neither here nor there. Real quick, before I let you go, and then we're going to come back for a part 2. I've shared with my audience about the public school system out here. I've shared with you, but I'll give you a bullet point. How school of choice, it was, like you mentioned, ad nauseum. I could pick as many schools when my daughter was embarking on kindergarten. But I noticed of the top 12 schools in my area, I was only allowed into 2. I had to choose between the 2. One was a K through 5, one was a K through 8. And these better schools are, like you said, they're on the outside of the zip code prisons that we're locked into.
Right.
And so I was able to choose from one of those 2 choices. As she was about to embark on middle school, you're absolutely correct. Now they want to give you a limited number of choices for school of choice. And what do you think all the parents did? They chose the top 3 schools, which was where? In the top white moneyed zip codes. Okay. What they ended up doing was catering to the people that lived in the zip code first. The white folks got first dibs at all of those openings. And you had to damn near be a genius several times over to get just a couple of, well, maybe one black and one brown in these zip codes. Okay. They kicked us all back to the zip code jails from whence we come. Okay. Now I went to the meeting at the school to meet up with the superintendent to tell him, no. You're not going to break the spirit of my daughter trying to get your API up on the backs of my daughter's K-5 education in a white privileged cul-de-sac that's usually using public school dollars to give their kids a private public school education. Not while I'm a taxpayer. Not while I'm paying taxes on my property. I'm not paying taxes just to educate your white children. I'm paying taxes to educate mine. What did he do? He kicked me to a school that was 20 miles from my home. Not the school, the number 1 school, which was 4 minutes from my house. I literally had to co-parent with a mother to get our daughters to and from school from 6th to 8th grade. We had to drive them 20 miles going and coming and make sure we had them covered from 6th to 8th grade. Now, my problem with that is a lot of our lower income people don't have that luxury. So keep that. That's number 1. We don't have that luxury. The second part is a lot of the resources are being starved from the zip code jails, and they're being poured into the white zip codes where these people are affording their children a private public school education. And so I've got a problem with that, because how in the world do we set our children up to take advantage of school of choice if who we're really trying to reach comes from the lower middle classes? How do we do that?
Okay, well, let me address California uniquely, because California is giving you what I call the illusion of inclusion. That's an illusion, because they don't have school choice. What they have is public schools, and they're telling you you can choose between just the public schools. The gold standard of school choice is you can choose any school. You can go to a private school. You can form your own private schools, which is the hidden power in school choice. So the reason Trump really stood out for me was because he had presented in 2016 a 10-point plan for Black America. I want you to Google that. Trump 10-point plan for Black America, which no Black Americans really ever heard of. So he had a specific offer on the table for Black America. It didn't say immigrant America, Hispanic America, Asian America, Jewish America, white America. It was 10-point plan for Black America. So he came to the table and nobody came and sat down next to him. And so when you have a businessman that's willing to sit in front of you, what do you do in business? You negotiate. And so we have not developed, or we're not acting on our ability to come and sit down and negotiate. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. If you were trying to buy a car, you go negotiate. If you're trying to buy a house, you go negotiate. So you need somebody that's willing to sit across the table from you. Now, that's not what we have with the Democrats. When they keep saying they want to study something, that's just the brush off. Oh, okay, we're going to go drop this off with these other people, and then we're never going to hear from it. They're going to memory hole it. So that 10-point plan for Black America, it included school choice, and he said up to $12,000 per student. Well, I thought, wait, that's a jackpot. I use the number 5,000 when I'm doing my math and when I'm doing presentations. If we could get $5,000 per student, we would be able to build an economy. So I'm going to keep going because I'm sorry, I got to touch back with the Dr. Claude Anderson. When I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson, he introduced a concept I had never heard of before, and he called it bouncing money. And he talked about communities that are the most wealthy. They have mastered a concept called bouncing money. And that means when a dollar comes into your hands, you bounce it around your own community from black business to black business to black business. That same dollar needs to stay in your same community before it leaves. Now, the dollar has power as long as you have it. Well, I never heard of this concept, but it made perfect sense. Then he broke it down and he said the number one community that bounces money the most is Jewish people. They bounce $1 in the Jewish community 18 times before it leaves. I said, oh. Then he said Asians were like 11 to 13 times. Oh. Then it was whites. I think they were like 6 to 9 times. Hispanics were like 5 to 7 times. And the black community was 0. Not even 1. So that's sort of a framework for how we have to think about our solutions. That's what I liked about it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I thought I'm going to use that framework. That's how I'm going to measure whether or not what I'm proposing is successful. Can I get us from 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 6? Then that automatically means that our wealth is going to go up. So when I applied it to the school choice metric, and I said, now imagine your own church where you probably do not have a school. And you say, we're just going to build a school with 100 kids. Now, Florida is the highest level of school choice participation in America. Their school choice program is over 20 years old. So they are way ahead of the game. So if you have a church in Florida and you say, we're going to put 100 kids in this church, they will give $8,000 per student. So now you have $800,000 to educate these students. You can choose free curriculum. If you want to say, let's get Dr. Claude Anderson's books, you can now buy Dr. Claude Anderson's books for 100 kids. Now, did Dr. Claude Anderson make money? Yes. So we just bounced that money. We got the money from the government. We bounced it into the church. We bounced it to buy black curriculum. We can buy Malcolm X books. You can buy all kinds of black books from black authors. So now we're bouncing that money. You're going to need food. You can go hire black contractors. Isn't that what the other people are doing? Yes. Black people are not getting contracts in public schools. We're probably not even getting 1%. So now you can hire black contractors. Who's going to paint the building if it needs to be painted? Oh, we can hire black painters. Can we hire black electricians, black plumbers, black roofers, black landscapers? Who's going to make the uniforms? Can we hire a black company to provide the uniforms? So we literally, with one policy, can now bounce money 5, 6, 7, 8 times with one policy. But when we're willing to be so superficial and then we just say, I don't like that guy because he said something, he had a mean tweet, we're going to give up bouncing 8 times because somebody had a mean tweet? Well, how rational is that? There is
about as irrational as the Congressional Black Caucuses. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So now we have a little mini reparations plan where black people own the school. We now have the power to hire our own and step up our game in the business community. And we're doing the best thing we can do. And that's educating our own children so they don't go into prison and they don't go into juvenile home and they don't make the mistake of having all of the children without being married, and they don't have to go to Planned Parenthood to have babies, and they don't end up on drugs, and they don't end up in alcoholism. So we get to grow our own future. We get to cultivate it and say, we want to be able to target and say, this child has a huge aptitude for mathematics. We really want to start grooming them into mathematics. We want to start grooming these children to go into politics. We want to groom our own generation of people who are going to become judges, who are going to go sit on these city councils, who are going to become the pastors, we get to see the potential and the power. They're stamping out. That's what you didn't want to happen to your daughter. You didn't want her spirit to be broken. So exactly. But we can take it to the next level because now all of these kids are having their spirits broken. They are under demonic attack, as far as I'm concerned.
It's the truth.
They're under demonic attack and they're being targeted in the spirit realm for drugs and having low self-esteem, and to get them to commit suicide, and to get them to even sell drugs, do drugs, be promiscuous. Like, this is debauchery. That is the word that you use, and it is appropriate. So the number one thing we should be doing, and I have declared in the spirit realm and this realm, that school choice and owning our own schools is the civil rights movement of the 21st century. We got to pour everything into what do we need to do to own our own schools, own them, control them, hire people through them. It's an economy without us realizing that. And I don't know LA, but my local school district has a budget of about $248 million every year flushing through that system. How much of that money is landing in the Black community? Almost none. Out of $248 million. Now I want to tell you the Department of Education's budget per year. Last year, their budget was $268 billion. Did we get that money? Where'd that money go? Some people got rich from that money, and it wasn't us. We don't own these schools. So why are we so clinging to them when they don't even work for us?
Lisa Watson, ladies and gentlemen, Watson speaking. I'm going to have her back.
I'm coming back.
Oh, yeah. I hope to have her back next Saturday, truth be told.
Oh, let's talk. That's good. That works.
Because we got so much more. I want to go through your comments and be able to raise the comments and questions on the next episode. We have decided to make Tyrone can't read because Jose can't speak English a series.
I want to tell people the background of that statement was I used to live in Los Angeles, and I had a roommate, and she was a school teacher. And one random day when I asked her something about school, she had been frustrated, and she said, Tyrone can't read because Jose doesn't speak English. And I was like, what? You know, she explained it more, but it speaks for itself. She doesn't have time to even get the children where they need to be because so many kids didn't speak English. And so she actually had to go back to school to learn Spanish. This is a Black woman from the Midwest. She went back to school to learn Spanish because she couldn't speak even to a lot of her own. She was a kindergarten teacher. And you know, you got to be able to pour into them. That K-3 is the most critical.
It's vital.
It's vital.
That's where reading and even more importantly, reading comprehension happens between K-3.
What people don't realize is after 4th grade, they stop teaching you to read. It's K-3 that they teach you to read. And 4th grade on, they assume you know how to read. So one of them is learning to read, and the other one is reading to learn. You have to already know it because they're not gonna stop and keep doing phonics with you. They're now assuming you know how to read. So here's the assignment, and now you go do the assignment. But you can't because you didn't even get the foundation. So you got 4 years to learn how to read. Now I learned how to read in preschool.
Yeah.
I remember reading in preschool. Now maybe I wasn't reading encyclopedias, but I knew how to read. So how can you now have 10-year-olds that don't know how to read? And the statistics are mind-boggling. They have 55 schools in Chicago, whole schools, where 0 children are on grade level for reading or math. 0. Baltimore has 33, I think, schools with 0 children. These are big schools with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids, and not one child knows how to read. But the tuition, I call public schools have a bill for each student, so I call it tuition for each Chicago and Baltimore is about $25,000 a year that they're spending per student. And here I am saying, give us $5,000. If we could get $5,000, we'd be able to do something with it. So they're getting $25,000. Imagine going from K through 12, 13 years. You know, that's almost
$25,000.
Correct. That is ridiculous.
I mean, times 10, you are already at $250,000.
Exactly. Exactly. And if I
And
can't,
for our kids to only go and do free slave labor in the private prisons.
right. So that's why I don't understand how anybody can still fall for the story that they need more money. They don't need more money. Little House on the Prairie, how much money did they have? And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to bring next Saturday, you guys better come.
1
I am
o'clock.
going to bring the 8th. Now, back in Little House on the Prairie, people don't know this. School used to only go to 8th grade. I'm going to bring you a Little House on the Prairie 8th grade graduation exam from Kansas. 8th grade graduation exam from the Little House on the Prairie school. And I'm going to read some of the questions that they had to answer to get their 8th grade certificate. You're going to be shocked. Now, the Lord found this for me because there's no way I would have randomly found an exam from Little House on the Prairie schools. But he said, pay attention to the date. And I'm looking at the date like, what does it mean? What does it mean? Then I had a light bulb moment. This was 30 years after slavery. So the exam that I'm going to bring to you, that meant that the children of the slaves, this is the same exam they had to pass in order to graduate 8th grade. So it didn't have anything to do with race. 8th graders used to be able to pass this exam. I'm going to bring you some of the questions next week. So I hope everybody tunes back in next week and they bring more people on next week, because we're going to continue this series until there are 1 million Black K through 12 schools.
I love it, sis. I want to thank you so very, very much for joining us today. I look forward to next Saturday, guys. I want to thank you so much for your comments. My apologies, I don't have time to read it. I'm in preparation for the holidays, but we'll be back next Saturday at 1 o'clock with Lisa Watson as our illustrious guest. I want to pray the prayer protection over you, that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again next Saturday, same time, same bat station, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your work week and happy day of giving thanks. Until then, family, stay tuned for the outro. Stand by. Good one.